guys, welcome to another video. Today we will talk about Oncidium and intergeneric orchids. How can we know that these plants are stressed? There are a few signs that you can spot on your orchid that will show and that will tell you a story. And how can we know that? How can we discover our plant needs to be repotted or maybe watered properly because the mix is very old, it's not adequate to your environment? So if that's the kind of video that you want to see today, subscribe to my channel, hit the like button and stay here with me. I chose specifically this one because this was the plant that inspired me to create this video. I've already showed you the same plant at what's flowering inside my indoor garden, and I will look for the footage to show you how this plant bloomed last year so you understand it better. But for now, I'll tell you what is happening here, and I'm gonna explain to you the signs that is showing that your Oncidium or intergeneric orchid's not doing well. Let's start. You will spot here around 5 or 6 signs, I think, different signs, and I'll try to talk a little bit about each of them. So the first thing that you will notice that your Oncidium is stressed is wrinkled pseudobulb. These orchids, they are sympodial orchids, so instead of growing one leaf on top of the other one, they will grow one growth after another one. And each of these growths, they will produce a pseudobulb. That's the round part of the plant that stored energy, water, that will keep your plant hydrated. So when we don't have enough roots, or maybe you didn't water your plant's not able to hydrate itself. So the pseudobulb will start feeding the plant. All the energy that it has is stored inside. When it's running off of this energy, it will start to become wrinkled because it's providing all of the energy that it has inside to the plant to be able to keep functioning. It's normal, it's an adaptation to the environment. We not always have rain, so sometimes it's rainy, sometimes it's drier. So the plant has these pseudobulbs that will keep feeding the plant while the plant waits for the rain in their natural habitats. In our homes, maybe we forgot to water. Maybe something happened to the plant, or it doesn't have enough roots yet because it's adapting to the new potting mix. You bought it without roots. Or maybe it lost all of its roots due to some disease or some issue. If your plant has any of these cases, you notice that it has very wrinkled and shriveled pseudobulbs. So that's the first sign that is telling you a story about your Oncidium. Something else related to pseudobulbs is that you may notice that some of the pseudobulbs start to rot. So it happens when your plant is sick. Maybe we have an infection. So for example, with Phalaenopsis, we talk a lot about crown rot, stem rot. So we can have some sort of rot when we have too much water trapped inside the leaves here, or maybe we have some sort of infection on the stem, that connected all of these plants. So if you have some sort of infection, it can become rot, and you notice when you touch it's very mushy. Also, the new growths, when we leave water trapped among the leaves or in between the leaves of the new growths, it can start to become yellowish and completely rot and wilter off with time. So you basically rot the new growth, which can be a problem if you don't have many growths on your plant yet, and you may lose your plant. So these type of rots, they are also another sign that something can be wrong, or maybe it's to do with your care. Maybe you didn't water it properly, you pour water from above, and you notice you didn't dry up the new growth, for instance. Or maybe I have some insects inside my pot, I have some bushy snails, or I may have spider mites that is transmitting some disease to my plant. There are many other things that affect it. We have some sort of rots that affect our plants. So if you notice that the pseudobulbs start to rot, wilter off, then maybe it's a sign that your plant is stressed. Still talking about pseudobulbs. It's the same thing with phalaenopsis when we talk about leaves. I'm always comparing because for some people it's easier to recognize these signs with phalaenopsis than with this sort of plant. But we have the new growths and they should grow larger, not forever. These plants, they have a natural size to them, but usually we buy young plants. So the pseudobulbs and the growths, they will grow larger over time. So if you notice that you start pushing out new growths and the new growths get smaller and smaller, your plant definitely has some sort of issue because it's not creating a whole structure that's able to maybe push out flower spikes and to provide nutrients and to store energy for the whole plant. Next, let's talk about the leaves. The leaves are very important for our plants. They photosynthesize, they will be able to exchange gas and also produce carbohydrates, sugars to keep our plant growing. Anyway, that's not the subject today. But our plants, they are very, very important. The leaves are very, very important. However, there are few things that you can observe, especially with these plants. They are massive leaf producers. So it's quite easy for you to notice if something wrong with the leaves. Stressed oncidiums, they will have sometimes wrinkled leaves. The leaves can become floppy, very wrinkled compared to plump leaves. That's one sign when they are extremely dehydrated, but I think something else that's easier for you to spot is to have in leaves like accordion type of leaves. They usually happen when your plant doesn't have enough roots to keep your plant growing healthily. For this reason, or maybe you are skipping watering, you are not keeping your plant hydrated as much. So all of these are signs that you have some issues. Could be with the root system or maybe with your own care. Something else that you spot with some oncidiums, but not all of them. I have a twinkle there, it's much easier. They tend to have spotted leaves. Some of these spots can be very normal and natural. They are responses to the environment, to difference in temperature and humidity. But some oncidiums, they will start having leaf tip dieback when they are not watered in time. Some of them are more sensitive to water. So if you notice that you have too much leaf tip dieback, could be an alert, a sign for you to keep an eye on, and maybe looking at the root system again, as I keep saying the same thing because it's all connected. But investigate, look at your plant and maybe discover that you can do something better to improve the care that you are doing, or maybe sometimes there is nothing that we can do. I do have sick orchids. I had many oncidiums that got sick before. And the last but not least, the flowers. So it is very similar to all of the other orchid flowers. If you notice that you are having bud blast, the buds are falling, withering before they open, again, it's a sign something might be wrong. Could be pests, could be the root system, could be some disease inside a plant, we don't know, but that's a very strange sign. Something else is the size of the flower. If you notice that the flowers are very small compared to the last season, especially if it's not a plant that blooms all the time, that blooms once a year. If you notice that differentiation, it could be a sign of stress. There is something else. We have as well the amount of flowers that your plant is producing. Some plants is capable of pushing a beautiful show, and maybe that's what happened to mine. Next year you don't have many flowers, you have 2 flower spikes with maybe 3, and here I have 3 other flowers. It's a pretty sight to display for a plant that's capable of doing much more. For me, that's a clear sign that something is lacking inside this pot. That's something for you to observe as well. Short story, just before I conclude this video, is this plant has been with me for 3-4 years at this point. I really like it, but I haven't repotted in a while. So I think this makes it old, very, very old. I can see that's very old. On top of that, I can see that the pseudobulbs are wrinkled. Not all of them, but most of them. I have some old pseudobulbs inside this pot. And if I put everything together, I think the reason why I don't have a beautiful show this year, it's because I didn't repot it. I didn't notice when it was needing water, so probably sometimes when your plant got really dehydrated, your orchids, and you offer too much water, you may rot the roots of your orchids as well, so this could have happened. But what I know, what these orchids telling me with this bloom display is that I need to take better care of it. So I'm sure this plant is a little bit stressed. Nothing very serious, but something is wrong here. And if I want to do better, I better repot this plant because this is an old plant in my collection. I know that it doesn't have any pests inside the mix. I know that's growing new growths, but I know that's not performing well. In this case specifically, I'm almost sure that the mix is too old, so it's probably completely degraded. It's completely degraded inside this pot. And sometimes when you have a very old mix, the pH can be altered and it's not good for the root system anymore. So I need to fix that in order to have a much better performing intergeneric. That's why I want to record this video, because maybe I'll be able to help you a little bit and you may spot it sooner, and it will help you to keep growing beautiful orchids, especially beautiful Oncidium intergenerics, because when they put a show, I don't know if you can see from there, but they can be amazing, they can be magical. So I showed you my cherry baby that's pushing out many flower spikes the first time that it did that. Super long flower spike. That's because it's very healthy and happy. Very different from this one. So I want to address this today. I hope you enjoyed this topic. If you did, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye.